Welcome in, Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we are going to look at the possibility of the Seahawks trading for KJ Hamler. According to Pro Football Focus, the Seahawks are the best fit for a potential trade for the Denver Broncos wide receiver. We'll tell you what they had to say, what a potential trade would look like, and let you get to know KJ Hamler coming up in just a few moments from right now. Before we do, we told you at the beginning of the week that all throughout this week, we are taking on our Niners channel and our Cowboys channel in a three-way sub-battle between these three. We wanted to go up against the division rival, the Niners report, and then the Cowboys report. Everybody hates the Cowboys, so that made sense. And I got to tell you, we're holding up our own, but we still have some work to do to try to win this battle by the end of the week. It's not too late to subscribe to the channel and help us try to beat these guys before it's all said and done. Subscribe now for the latest happenings on your Seattle Seahawks. We're talking news and rumors, trades, free agency, getting you ready for the draft, and more. We do live shows every Wednesday as well, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Subscribe now for free so you can be a part of the family here at Seahawks Today, and we'll get started on today's show. KJ Hamler, could he be making his way to Seattle and joining the Seattle Seahawks? Speculation is that the Denver Broncos are looking to move on from Hamler, and that he is on the trade market of sorts, that Sean Payton and company kind of cleaning house, going a new direction there, and all three of their receivers have been named as potential trade options between Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and KJ Hamler here. And with KJ Hamler, what's interesting is compared to those other two, we haven't really seen a whole lot of KJ Hamler. He's dealt with a decent number of injuries over the years, so you'd have to think his price tag probably not too high, and still a lot of potential on what he could still do if he were to be healthy in the National Football League. With that said, let's see what PFF had to say about the possibility. Hamler is a prototypical vertical slot receiver, a player who can threaten deep at any time with a free release off the line. He may not be the most well-rounded receiver, but there are several teams in the league crying out for either the injection of speed, the threat deep downfield, or a slot option. His average depth of target is 24.9 yards downfield last season, and he had a career low in yards per route, 1.06, as he was aligned out wide more often. So that's what PFF has to say about it. We'll get into more of this in just a second, tell you about the Seahawks situation of where they stand. Remember, Marquise Goodwin, he is gone now. You're going to have to find a new wide receiver 3 anyway, whether it's through free agency or trade or through the draft, whatever it may be. You're going to have to find another option. What will the Seahawks do? This is our pinned comment today. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Get your votes in. Y for yes, N for no. Should the Seahawks trade for KJ Hamler? Knowing what we know, that it wouldn't be too expensive, and he would fill a need at that third wide receiver position, and obviously he hasn't hit his ceiling just yet. What do you think about this idea? Tell us in the comment section. Y for yes, N for no. Should the Seahawks trade for KJ Hamler or not? Let me know what you think. So here's the backstory on KJ Hamler. In 2020, he was a second-round pick out of Penn State, was a very fine football player in the Big Ten, but we haven't seen a whole lot of KJ Hamler so far in his very young career in the National Football League. He's played in just 23 games total in the last 3 seasons. Not very much. He has been injured a lot. And then another note, besides just the injuries that have occurred and where everything's at, if you go back to March 23rd, which was just a few days ago, it was announced that he would be ruled out for the next 4 to 6 months with a torn pectoral muscle. Okay? So if you make a move for KJ Hamler, you are getting a guy that not only has an injury history, but actually is injured right now. So that's not necessarily ideal, but the good thing is it does make the asking price not too high. And with him still being on a rookie contract, here's what you kind of need to know about this situation. It wouldn't cost you that much at all, whether it's what you would give up for KJ Hamler or what you would potentially pay him. He's only got 1 year remaining on his contract, so it's a low-risk, high-reward situation. He's only going to make $1.58 million this year, so that's not a whole lot of money that he would be paid. And then on top of that, when you compare him, to put it into perspective of how his money ranks and where his contract's at compared to other receivers in the NFL, 90th out of 295 in the contract ranking according to overthecap.com. So it's reasonable. This is something that the more you look into it, like, yes, there are some negatives there. There are things there with KJ Hamler of that he hasn't played a whole lot, that he hasn't been healthy, but you look at the situation, what we just showed you right there, of that, hey, it's going to be probably a late-round pick that you would give up for him when the Seahawks have 10 picks to begin with, and you're only going to pay him $1.58 million. I'm willing to take a flyer on that, just see what you can get. Name a player the Seahawks should trade for. Seems like they're done in free agency for now anyway. Unless something changes, we'll let you know. But now the focus shifts to potential trades or to the draft. Who comes to mind? Who would you like to see the Seahawks acquire via trade, whether it's KJ Hamler or it's somebody else? Tell me in the comment section who you'd like to see in a Seahawks uniform in 2023. Hamler's best season. You go back to what he did in 2020 when he had 30 catches, 381 yards, 12.7 average, and 3 touchdowns. It was solid what KJ Hamler did in his rookie season, but obviously there's still more to be desired of what he could potentially bring to the table there. And kind of like we talked about from Sam there from PFF, what we talked about at the beginning, a vertical slot receiver can threaten deep at any time with free release off the line. You're looking at, for Seattle here, you need a guy in the slots. And then on top of that, you're looking at a situation. Remember, Geno Smith, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but Geno was one of the best deep ball passers in the NFL last year. He did a really good job when he was asked to stretch the field of getting the ball to DK and some of those other guys for some big plays. He was one of the most accurate deep ball throwers in the league. And so if KJ Hamler can be that speed guy, if he can get downhill, down the field, and, be that threat for Seattle, this could be a good fit for the Seahawks. And I'm telling you, let's be real about this. Because of the unreliability from KJ Hamler and the injury that he's at right now, it's not that much. It really isn't that much for Seattle, what you'd have to give up. A late-round pick, maybe, and you can have him. He's all yours. Denver seems to be done with him at this point in time. And if you look at the wide receiver room in Seattle, now that Marquise Goodwin is gone here, let's be real with y'all. Once you get past DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, there's quite a significant drop-off at that point. D. Eskridge, kind of the same thing we talked about with KJ Hamler, hasn't really been dependable, but it's been actually kind of worse with D. Eskridge. Does anyone right now trust D. Eskridge to be your number 3 receiver? Not even saying that you trust KJ Hamler necessarily, but I need to get bodies. I need guys to compete and somebody to try to win this job. I'd bring in KJ Hamler. No guarantees that you're going to be the 3rd wide receiver on this team, but you compete with D. Eskridge and Young and these guys, and let's just see. Let's give Geno and company the best they can possibly work with and see who wants to be the starting 3rd wide receiver and win this job. That's what I'm looking at if I'm Seattle is nothing's guaranteed, but let's just try to find somebody that steps up to be that 3rd guy. And maybe it's even in the draft potentially. But no matter what, at the end of the day, the Seahawks, what they have right now, that wide receiver room you see on your screen, that's not good enough. They have to do more. Got to add another piece, whether it's a guy like KJ Hamler or it's in the draft, whatever it may be. Something's got to change for this Seahawks team. And KJ Hamler could be a nice solution that does not cost you too much with his salary number and his value in the trade market just not being that high. So let me know, who should the Seahawks add at wide receiver? Who comes to mind that you'd like to see, whether it's somebody in the draft or somebody they should trade for? Tell me a name that you'd like to see in Seattle playing wide receiver for the Seahawks next year. You can also hit me up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live. Find me there. I'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today.